Nobody said it'd be easy, but we took a train to the ceiling. And I'm high on all of my feelings. Don't wake me up from the stream. I bought a one-way ticket to space. Let's get out of here. I heard you, but it's nice this time of year. Out in the wild, find a eating. Let's stay a while, never leaving. Sound the alarm in my heart. Ah, we're taking off. Sound the alarm in my heart. Ah, we're taking off. Don't let go, I want your body around, all around, all around. Sound the alarm in my heart. Ah, we're taking off. Taking off. Taking off. Found you in all of the madness. I heard your voice in the static. Your skin on my skin like a magnet. I won't look down when we crash. I bought a one-way ticket to space. Let's get out of here. I heard you, but it's nice this time of year. You turn my world on its axis. Out here where anything happens. Sound the alarm in my heart. Ah, we're taking off. Sound the alarm in my heart. Ah, we're taking off. Don't let go, I want your body around, all around, all around. Sound the alarm in my heart. Ah, we're taking off. When you reach the end, will you wait for me? Holding out a torch that's lighting up the way. I can't run and I can't crawl, but as soon as I scale your castle walls, I'll try to find you. 'Cause I know I see it all tonight. Oh, I see it all tonight. I watch you come to life. I feel the world around us. I see it all
What is up, everybody? It is Wednesday, August 5th. Man, it's already August. Holy cow. And it is 7 o'clock Central Time, which means, as you all know, it is time for Generation Orange. And I am one of two hosts, Sean Ringrose, and my co-host is...
Segovia, man. What's going on, guys? Hope everybody's doing well. What's going on with you, Sean?
Man, I'm tired. I had a physical today, and the physical wasn't even the worst part. I just didn't sleep well last night, and have just not had. I'm running on literal fumes. So, as we discussed, I'm giving you host duties, and I'm gonna play like I'm gonna sit back and respond, and that's about the extent you're getting out of me tonight. So, good luck.
I'm taking the bull by the horns today, then.
Yeah, that also means you get to direct what we're gonna talk about. So you know. It's a responsibility.
It is a big
responsibility.
Great
power comes great power comes great responsibility. Yeah, that's what it is. With great power comes great responsibility.
Thank you, Uncle Ben. Anyway, so I mean, obviously this week has been a little bit of slow week for Houston soccer with nothing going on as far as the Dynamo, and obviously with the Challenge Cup with the dash being over. We're kind of in the latter stages of U.S. soccer and trying to see what's going on aside from the semifinals going on today with Minnesota United and Orlando City tonight. But there are a couple things to talk about, and we'll go through those things as far as we can, and obviously get your opinions about the stuff that we're going to talk about. And at the end, we're going to talk a little bit something off topic as far as U.S. soccer. We're going to go a little bit more global with our soccer talk at the end of the show. Because there's a couple things that happened over the weekend, but we'll get to that. But one of the things that I want to talk about,
I see the smile on your face. Don't even.
But one of the things I want to talk about first and foremost, as you all know, I'm a big owner for youth soccer in the United States. And with the MLS, there was a announcement made this past week about extra fundings and collaborations with a lot of youth soccer clubs around the nation, along with the MLS teams, youth academy, and a couple of USL teams as well. And the great thing about this is not only with, does it include the Houston Dynamo Academy, but also includes two other academies that are here locally, Houston Dynamo Unidos and Total Football Club, which I'm familiar with Total Football Club because my nephew played, well, he trained for them for a little bit, and they're a great organization, and all that good stuff. So I'm happy to see that, them being connected with that as well. And plus, obviously the better we can do to provide funding for youth soccer, the better obviously that we can get, as far as soccer in general for the future of U.S. soccer and all that good stuff. So what do you think, Sean?
Oh, I mean, I completely agree. Without a doubt, it's good to see youth soccer finally getting a real focus. By U.S. soccer. I've always said that if the U.S. men's national team is going to improve, if U.S. soccer's talent pool is going to improve, it's going to require really tapping into youth soccer at the local levels and giving them a little bit more freedom to do what they do and to do it the way they're going to do it. And I think we're seeing a little bit of that.
And one of the things, and one of the big criticisms about U.S. youth soccer is the money involved in it, as compared to other countries that are obviously far and well ahead of us as far as soccer comes, and their youth levels are nowhere near the cost as far as ours is. For example, and those who have kids in academies and soccer clubs and who do all the traveling games, all that stuff, know. But what basically on what I'm talking about. It's a huge cost right now, man, and it's an unfortunate thing. It's kind of a privileged thing right now because of the cost behind it. For kids, to go out there, obviously get shoes, cleats, uniforms, obviously pay for to be involved with the club or whatever. I mean, there's sponsorships and stuff like that, but obviously not everybody gets those. And I think this incentive right here with Major League Soccer and all that good stuff is going to help aid that and help further and find those hidden gems and talented kids that before wouldn't have the opportunity to be involved in something like this, in this program where they can get coaching, training, how to get fitness levels up, how to get strength up, strength and conditioning, all that good stuff, a balanced diet, nutrition, they get to learn about those other things that are necessary to become a pro and a professional like this in soccer. So that's a good thing about this this incentive, this initiative. I mean, so we'll see. Hopefully it all turns out well, and it's all going to the positive. So I'm looking forward to it.
For sure. I do want to say, it's interesting because one of the reasons that football in particular has such a foothold here in the U.S. In terms of the premier talent going to the NFL, if you will. It does have something to do with the money side of it, but there is also the other side of it, which is the NFL has done a very good job of creating programs and working with local youth programs, from Pee Wee football and high school football and even college football, to create a pipeline, and a true single pipeline that runs into the NFL. What you also see though is they've also focused on getting opportunities for the underprivileged, especially those with talent, to have opportunities to learn the game, to like you said, get the nutrition side of things, the strength and conditioning side of things, and they've really dove into the that sort of thing within the underprivileged communities. And I think we see the result of that is that when you see players going into college, to some extent, there is NFL side. These players are going in and they're expecting and desiring to play a career in that sport, and they're going to do whatever it takes to get there. I think with soccer, we see a lot of, especially here in the U.S. when it comes to college soccer, we see a lot of kids go from high school soccer to college soccer, and it's not the same level of passion for the sport. It's not the same level of, yeah, this is a career opportunity. It's more, this is a way for me to get a college scholarship, and then after that, I'm probably going to bow out and go find a real job. That's kind of how it's viewed, and I think that plays a huge role, and it's going to require, and soccer in general to grow in the U.S., especially at the pipeline levels. It's going to require a lot of coordination between U.S. soccer and the local levels and regional levels to come up with plans to really empower kids that have talent and skill to keep them away from it in the NFL, keep them away from the NBA, keep them away from MLB, because otherwise we only end up with the table scraps off those, and that's not the best athletes. In U.S. soccer is usually the ones that unfortunately pay the price, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, and the way this thing is structured, I mean, is there's going to be levels to this, so and that's always good, obviously because not everybody comes in with the ball skills of Messi, so so you get to learn and pick up and learn and hopefully hone your skills and grow and progress, and then there's it's the way that it seems to be portrayed on in this article is that there's going to be levels and there's going to be different types of skills and levels, obviously ages and all that good stuff. So yeah, man. But regardless, it's great. It's an initiative for youth soccer in America, and I'm really happy to see it. So moving along here, obviously on the YouTube chat, they're talking about NWSL. Obviously everybody's still excited about the last week's championship win with the Dash, but there's some Dash news a little bit from our MVP Rachel Daly. Some rumors out there that she might be going out on loan, or she wants to go out on loan and play in England to obviously keep her fitness level up, because obviously Olympics still coming around, and that's something that's still probably going to happen. Whether there's supporters in the stadiums or fans in the stadiums, that's still to be known. But obviously, she wants to keep her level up because it's at a high level right now. And obviously, she plays for the England national team. So, and I think it's obviously a move that a lot of the high profile players from NWSL are going to do. I'm assuming, especially those who play in the national team, they're going to go overseas and try to play with a club in Europe, especially if they're going to get their leagues kicked off. I don't know what the plans for NWSL are right now. I don't think there's a season in plan as of right now, but I mean, who knows? Obviously, things can change. But for Rachel Daly's sake and for her own personal ambition, yeah, it's a good move for her to go on loan and keep her fitness level up and her quality up and keep out there and playing and on trucking, man. What do you think?
So Jake mentioned earlier, and I've heard some of the same things, that NWSL is looking at potentially running a fall league. We should find out in the next couple of days, hopefully by the end of the week, what that decision is, if they're going to go ahead and move forward with that or not. And if they're not going to move forward with it, then I think it makes a ton of sense for Rachel Daly to go over to England to go play for one of the Premier League women's teams, or WSL league teams, I suppose, WSL teams. But it's good. She is a premier athlete on the English team. It's a chance for her to also go and get some of that extra international experience. You said staying sharp. I think that's part of it, and fitness, keeping fitness up. But I think part of it also is the fact that she has an opportunity to go back to England after having helped spur her team on to win NWSL Challenge Cup, and create an opportunity for her to build her image over there even more, and create opportunities where girls can see her play and really dive into that. It's a similar kind of thing when a U.S. women's national team player here in the U.S. gets to play for their local NWSL team, and you see the girls that come out and support that. It's the same kind of thing, and she wants to see soccer grow in England. So I like I said, I think it's a fantastic thing. And even if the NWSL end up playing that fall season, I still think that she probably needs to go play in England and just capitalize while she can on what she's been able to generate here. Because the fall season, even if there is one, we're talking 8 weeks at most. I mean, it's not going to be long. Whereas she can get a full kind of season over there in England. And we've seen that, from the Premier League that English football is able to, maintain the integrity of their testing and bubble, if you will, for their athletes in their leagues. And so that being the case, I don't see any reason why her being over there this air quote season / year, would be a detriment to her health or her, physicality.
Yeah, and like Jake saying in the chat, Sam Muse went to Man City, and yeah, there's a lot of speculation about where Daly could end up in England. I think I read an article or under transfer article in ESPN that there's 4 teams really interested. I think Man United's one of them. Everton. I can't think of the other 2, but I mean some big clubs. I mean, there you go with the Topo Chico.
Yes.
But yeah, but regardless of where she goes in England, I mean, obviously it's to keep her skills sharpened and make sure that she's there available for selection for the England national team. And obviously, if there is a fall season for the NWSL, I'm pretty sure whatever loan deal that the Dash end up doing for Daly, they'll put in there, that hey, we would like to have her back during this time period if this were to happen. If not, then you can have her for the season and all that good stuff. And Jake says that Chelsea and Birmingham City were others as well. But and I heard that Man U's the one that's pushing the hardest, but we'll see. Yeah, so I mean, I think it's great for not just her in particular, but just every player that's available for national team selection. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you hear Jan Campbell going out there or Oyster or Groom, looking out to get lumps.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to think that we'll see much in the way of Jane Campbell going out there, just because goalkeeper is one of those positions that's a little bit different when it comes to loans.
Yeah.
You just don't see it very often. Field players a little bit more because you have a much more roster flexibility with those players. But I want to see Christy Mewis go play for Man City with her sister. I'm going to be totally honest. I think that would just be fun. And they've played before, obviously, at the lower levels. So why not give it a shot and just have fun with it? I mean, the way Christy played in that tournament, there's no reason not to. Like, they could absolutely play together, and it would be fun to watch. And then, of course, you end up possibly having Daly on the opposite side of that, and it just, again, creates some really fun opportunities for some matches. But I think just you kind of hit it, and it's important, for these players to keep that fitness up. It's important for them to keep the conditioning up and be ready for, when we get past this point and are able to have full air quote normal. I don't even know if we're going to ever have a real true normal anymore. At least not like it used to be, but at some point, we're going to get to a new normal, and when we get there, it will be good for those players to be, ready to roll and comfortable, in their opportunities that are that have been presented to them.
For sure, man. But obviously, we over here, we like to talk Dash, but there's not a lot going on over there right now. For those of you, obviously, we're a Houston soccer show, so we're gonna carry on with the Dynamo. Obviously,
wait, we're not gonna talk about the parade last week.
Oh yeah. My fault. I think we talked. I'm sorry, man.
We didn't talk about the parade. You mentioned they won. We didn't talk about the parade though. I was there. It's the only reason I want to talk about it.
No, I didn't get a chance to make it, man, because I was working out late. But
I'm hearing excuses. I don't know about y'all in chat. I'm hearing excuses. That's all I'm hearing coming out of Mark's mouth. But no, so I wanted to talk the parade real quick, and what I want to talk about is the level of support that people showed up with was nuts. I mean, it was. So Sergio and I went, and we got there, and we were probably in the last 25 to 30 cars, and there were easily 100 to 150 cars in front of us.
That's awesome,
and it stretched the start of it. So it went through the small parking lot at the back of the stadium, along what I think is Walker Street there, right across from the one that's right across from Kings Court. And it went right through that little area, and then so that's where it is, right? That line snaked from there out the initial gate, up a little bit down that one street, and then over a street, and then down that street, and then all the way down Emancipation, all the way to Bastrop, Actually, it might have even been no, it was Bastrop, all the way to Bastrop, or no, it was a little further than Bastrop, and then down that street, and then down another street, and then partially down another street, and then partially down another street. It was crazy. Like it was the map that they had that they shared beforehand, to where people were supposed to go, did in no way match where everybody ended up going. And it was, we waited easily 45 minutes before we even 30 minutes before we actually moved at all. And then about 45 minutes before we got anywhere even till we were even looking at the stadium from the direction that we were at, because we were so far away. And again, we were in the last 30 or so cars. So crazy stuff, but the support was there. I could tell that the ladies were well liquidated and hydrated by the point that we got there. They had definitely imbibed a few times prior to us arriving, for sure. But they were having a good time, and I could also tell they were worn out. I assume after 100 and some odd cars, you're just like, all right, can we just have this be over with? It's fun, but damn. But it was fun. It was good. They gave away posters, and the championship posters look pretty amazing. They gave away, actually, these right here I have in my hand. They gave away little dash coins, dash poker chips is what they call them, but they're like solid metal. I'm gonna be honest real quick. This coin looks to me like it was probably made prior to the season, prior to them knowing the season was going to be postponed, and it was intended to be a giveaway during the season. So they had them left over, and they were like, "Well, we got to give them away." So hey, championship giveaway thing, because it says nothing about the Challenge Cup championship or anything like that. So I'm like, yeah, it was a giveaway for the season, and it says 2020 on it. So it wasn't not like they could hold them until next year to give them away next year. So it was one of those things. But on the other side of it, it was also really cool because there were some people that reached out to me on Twitter when Sergio was posting that we were in the line, and they were like, "Hey, we're here too," and it was people that I was like, "Wow, really? Y'all are here? Damn! Like, didn't expect this many people to be here, and people I knew." And so it was cool. It was a good atmosphere, and I wish we could have done it like a real parade, and everybody be able to be together and really cheer and be loud and have real fun, and I mean, not that it wasn't fun, but have some legit heavy fun. But it was good. It was nice, and like I said, I mean, the support that was shown to the ladies, I know it definitely resonated with them, and they definitely deserved it after the effort and work that they put in, and it showed.
Yeah, man, I was looking at the content on Twitter, obviously, and I was following during the time period, and it looked, man, I kept seeing, from everybody who follows me and everybody I follow, who was there, just different angles and different visuals of the parade and stuff like that. And yeah, I saw that the ladies were a little bit, juiced up, but it's all good, man. Hey,
That's a good way to put it.
they're the champions, man, and it's 100-degree weather out there. What do you expect?
Dude, it was so hot. It was so hot.
You got to drink, man. You got to keep hydrated. It's Texas. Humidity is no joke.
So there's a couple other things I want to say related to that. Number one, afterwards, and you'll just find this funny. Afterwards, Sergio's like, hey, I know that Eighth Wonder, if we can get there by 7:00, because they close at 7 now. If we can get there by 7, they're selling a case of Cougar Paws for $20.
Okay.
And I was like, well, if we can be done out of here by 7, yeah, we'll make it over. There's not a big deal. It wasn't like it was out of my way to go. So he grabbed some Cougar Paws. I just want to say, look, I'm not trying to rep Eighth Wonder specifically or Cougar Paws specifically, but that is a damn good beer. That is a really good craft beer that it hits real well. It's got good. It's almost a perfect summer beer. It's not real heavy. It's not real heat, but it's cool. It cools you off, and it was just, oh man, it was so good. And then I don't remember the second thing, so we're just gonna you just go ahead and move on.
No, well, I mean, something coming from somebody who sells Eighth Wonder. I mean, yeah, it is a really good beer, and they have a lot of great beers out there in Eighth Wonder. But,
so, look,
yeah, no, man.
If you work for Eighth Wonder, somebody out there, and you happen to be watching this show, or somebody pegs you and says, "Hey, these guys are talking about Cougar Paws," just know we'll rep your beer. We ain't above that.
Oh, for sure. No, but going back to the parade, man, yeah, man, the content was awesome, and that just goes to show the level of support that the ladies have, man, because, I mean, think about it. I mean, unfortunately, under these circumstances, everybody had to be in their cars, and it was a drive-through. But imagine if it would have been a real parade like you usually have for a championship parade or championship rally or whatever. I think there would have been, a couple thousand people out there, man, at least, because I mean, obviously people were, kind of skeptic of whether to go be in the cars, wait for however long or this and that, or they weren't too sure how it was going to roll or whatever other, skepticisms that they might have had. But to still have the level of support that they had for that day, especially because you can see that long line. I think I saw something on Twitter. I don't remember whose Twitter it was, but they were going down the line of cars with their camera, and it was a long line, man. It was really long.
Yeah.
So,
like I said, I can attest to exactly how long that line was, and it was as long as it looked like in them videos.
Yeah. So that's so good to see, man. So good to see. So, but yeah, man.
I did remember my second thing I wanted to say, and this I'm only bringing this up because it showed up on Instagram. And it showed up on the Dynamo or the Dash's feed as well. If you guys saw the truck that had the smoke bomb in the back, you can thank George for that. He's not currently in chat today, but George, our listener George, who's also a good friend of mine,
Jorge.
Jorge. George is the one. Him and his wife put that together and worked on that and got that going. And I know for a fact that Clarkson in particular loved the hell out of that. He appreciated it tremendously because it was like one of those things like they were not expecting something of that level, and for that to pull on through like early on in the line, it lit them. They were loving it, and so I just wanted to make sure he got a shout out for it, and got a little bit of love for it because it was awesome to see, and I wish we would have been closer to enjoy it a little bit more ourselves, but at least we got there. we were
Sure, man.
we
Shout
were
out
to get there.
shout out George, man. Shout out Jorge. But yeah, man, and shout out all the other fans that obviously that were handing out beer to the girls as well.
Yeah,
Because I mean, I saw somebody gave out like a suitcase of Budweiser, and some other girls were giving out drinks and all that stuff. So that's really good, man. I'm happy. Like I said, I'm hyped for them. Unfortunately, there's no season to fall back on to see them keep going, or hopefully there will be. But it's great to see, man, to see the support for women's soccer, especially here locally for the Dash.
absolutely.
But
I want to say one thing just before we close out the NWSL Dash segment. I hope genuinely that Tab and Clarkson get the opportunity to run their teams against each other in a scrimmage during practice, because the way the Dynamo played during MLS is back, and the way that the Dash played during Challenge Cup, I'm not gonna lie, I expect the Dash to come out that one winners. Just saying.
let's talk about Tab and Dynamo, man. I mean, most of y'all here obviously
Good
listen
segue.
to Glenn
Good
Davis.
segue. Very smooth segue right there. That was nice.
Most of y'all, some of y'all, and for those who don't, Glenn Davis, who's soccer Jesus here in Houston,
Without that beard.
without the beard, but obviously he had Tab Ramos on yesterday, and for those who didn't hear the interview, they went over some things, some questions, and Tab was really honest and open about the questions that he asked, and it was quite surprising and really good. It's great when a coach or any part of the team or club can be real open to the fans, because obviously I know they're not going to tell everything, they're not going to expose everything that's going on behind closed doors and all that stuff, but still, as supporters and fans of this club that we love, we bleed orange, hashtag for orange, hashtag hold it down, all that stuff. We like to get the insight and know what's going on, and especially when it comes to certain players or certain things that's going on with the club in general, obviously, because obviously before the MLS's back tournament, we had we left the season on with a huge downer, losing 4-0 to to Kansas City. And Glenn asked him, hey man, how did that feel, to lose like that, and then to be off the amount of time that you were, and to basically have that last memory be that that 4-0 loss and leave that bad taste in their mouths. And Tab was basically honest about it. He's like, yeah man, that was a horrible showing. It was really, really bad, and unfortunately for us, it was the last memory that our fans, supporters had of us, and obviously this MLS's back tournament gave us the opportunity to gave them the opportunity to kind of rewrite that script a little bit. And they did. I mean, obviously they came out guns blazing against LAFC. That first half was really something. Obviously, the way Memo came out and scored that brace, and then them being up 3-1, but obviously it ended up in a tie. Um, they also talked about a little bit, about the group that they were in. And Tab was like, he didn't really care about what group he was in. He just wanted to be in a group with high level teams, which obviously he was with LAFC, who he in doubt said basically was the best team in the tournament. But unfortunately, penalties are penalties. Those are kind of toss ups. Portland Timbers, obviously being in the position they're in right now in the semifinals, obviously shows their quality. And obviously, LA Galaxy right now, they're being a little bit they're down on their luck right now a little bit, but they're still LA Galaxy and they still got quality players, and they're gonna turn it around. They're not just gonna sit on their hands and just let it all sink. But what do you think, Sean, about how the Dynamo kind of rewrote their script in this MLS's back tournament? Obviously, with that sour taste left in our mouths from that 4-0 ass whooping that Kansas City gave us, but now obviously, I think he is a little bit. I mean, he wanted to qualify for the knockout rounds, but they didn't. I guess they didn't embarrass themselves.
No, he may not say that on the show, but he basically said that during the on-field interview during the third match against LA Galaxy. He literally called the play shit. He was like, "This is total shit. We're playing like shit. We don't belong here right now. We don't belong playing these guys right now." I mean, it was pretty clear how he felt, and sure, he's had a little time to think about it, but I guarantee you he does not. That feeling has not changed. He believes that team, the way our team came out and played that third match, that we didn't belong there, and it's frustrating. I think as a fan, you look at NWSL Challenge Cup, you look at this competition. These tournaments are not designed, but they set up well for upsets, and we've already seen it in MLS's back in terms of all the teams that remain. None of them were in that top 4, top 8, predictions as far as who was going to come out the winner, right? And so, and the same thing with the NWSL Challenge Cup. I mean, the Dash were huge underdogs, and nobody had Portland, being the win, or not Portland, Chicago being the team to make it to the final either. So, it's these types of tournaments that are opportunities for teams that have traditionally struggled during a full season to come out and just put everything on the line and show that, hey, what we do in a season, that's really not who we are. That's not our identity. We're still working on building that identity, but it's not actually our identity. And unfortunately, the Dynamo they still haven't found that identity. They still haven't found that thing that makes them the Dynamo. They have this high-powered attack at times, for periods of a match, but they can't sustain it for 90 minutes. They can maintain possession if they need to against a team that encourages that. That's fine, but they can't find goals then during that entire 90 minutes, it feels like. And it's just things like that. But the lack of identity, that's got to be a thing that Tab figures out. And that's a coach that's transitioning from international, being a U.S. men's national team, youth national team coach, to now being a professional head coach. It's a different thing. It's a different game entirely. And you have these players regularly, more frequently, and so you have to instill different focuses and different tactics and mentalities. And I think he will over time, but there wasn't enough time for him to really truly instill that into the team fully. And the other thing is that really sucked was we were on the back foot because of Albert Elise, and that was the hardest thing to deal with, was watching what Elise did and how that impacted. And it truly, there's no doubt, it impacted that third match. And we talked about it last week, but it just, how long can you continue to hold that guy? In his opinion, hold him back, but in my opinion, how can you hold on to him at this point? He's cost you so many matches. He's cost you so many opportunities in matches where it mattered. He either didn't show up or he pulled a really stupid move and got himself in trouble early. And in this match, he got himself thrown out, and then the third match he didn't get to play because he was suspended. So, at what point do you kind of go, okay, the guy has all the talent in the world, but he doesn't have that maturity level, and he's clearly not going to get it here.
Another thing that he spoke about, since you're talking about transition and they're trying to find an identity, was Glenn asked him, how do you feel the team is overall? And he answered, he said offensively he thinks they can be one of the top teams in the league. Defensively he thinks they're okay, but where he sees a huge deficit is in transition. When they're transitioning, when they lose the ball to try to get back on the ball or whatever, he feels that they're lacking in that aspect. And I understand what he's talking about, because it feels like when they're on the attack and they lose that ball, for whatever reason, they just stop. They don't go. Like, the attacking players don't go back for it. I'm not gonna say all of them. I mean, there's some of them that obviously run back and try to get the ball back, but you do see it from time to time. And those transition periods, they hurt a lot, especially when that team gets the ball and goes on a counter attack, and they're able to go back the full length of the pitch, and then at the other end ends up scoring, because you catch your defense off guard, and you don't give them enough time to get on defense, because you don't hold them up, because you stopped in your tracks and just let them take the ball away and kept going. So yeah, I understand what he's talking about when he's saying that they lack in the transitional part of their game. And
so you mentioned something, and tactically I want to talk about it, and I've actually picked up a little bit more of this due to playing Football Manager, actually, oddly enough. Football Manager in FIFA, but in Football Manager there's a tactic known as counter press, and it's part of the idea of pressing immediately after you lose possession on the counter attack. The first thing every player does is they are pressing, and immediately pressing whoever has possession, and doing it in a way that makes sense. Obviously, you don't want every player, pressing that one player, because likely they're not going to give up possession, against 10 guys. But if you have one or two guys at least causing them to, it slows down that transition so that your other guys can get back. It slows down the opposition's counterattack. It forces them to have to cycle back to their center backs or back to their wing backs, or even back to their goalie. And when we've been on and when we've done well in the first half of that first match, is definitely a prime example of that. We were counter pressing without an issue. LAFC could not generate anything on the counterattack. We were holding them truly at bay. And then halftime happened, and the guys came out, and that counter press was just not the same level, and it didn't have the same intensity. Players were, and the players will probably say we were exhausted. We just didn't have we weren't ready. We didn't have the fitness level to really go a full 90 at that point. But on the flip side, how does LAFC have the fitness to go the full 90? And so I wanted to talk about the counter press, because I feel like that's what Tab wants, but I don't feel like we have the right players in the midfield to do that. I think Vera is one of those right players to do that. I think long term Ian Hoffman could be one of those players, because he has that positional capability and that capability to send that long ball to whoever's on the wing to create a very quick counter. But he's also very solid defensively, where he can regain possession when it's lost in the midfield or even up the pitch. I don't feel like Boniak's that type of player anymore. He's not a press type of player. So go ahead.
Oh, so speaking of players, and tactics, obviously, Glenn, that's one of the questions that he asked him. He asked him, well, everybody knows Tab Ramos loves a 4-3-3, and he even brought in a quote that Matias Almeida made for the San Jose coach, that, in case for those who don't know, that this is the formation that he plays. This is the style they play. They're not going to get away from it. And he asked them, like, hey, so we know that you love a 4-3-3. Is that the formation you're going to go with? Or, I mean, does it change? Do you go with that? Do the players have to adapt to your formation? Or do you try to adapt to the players that you have currently? Or what's going on? And I think he gave a really good answer as far as, he said, yeah, for sure, man. My whole thing is the 4-3-3. I love the 4-3-3. I love open attack, and then everybody just cramming into the box to score goals, right? And obviously, yeah, it's a sexy brand of football and all that good stuff. But he also acknowledges that, man, but you also got to have the players of that quality to play that formation, and
Hmm.
and understanding that, that if you don't have that quality player to play that formation, or the tactics that you want to play, that it's not going to work out the way that you want it to. And you, as a coach and coaching staff, you have to be able to adapt. Obviously, in due time, you want to have the players available for the formation that you want to run, your preferred formation. And but he also goes into the fact that he's only been the coach for 5 games now. He's on and he hasn't been able to be hands on with his players for about 3 months because of the whole COVID thing. And obviously, yeah, we all understand that. And going forward, Glenn also asked him, well, well then, are the Dynamo trying to get players? I mean, what do you think about obviously the players that we have signed already, but that seems more long term. Glenn asked Tab, what about the short term? I mean, obviously you're a coach and you want to win now. You want to win as much as possible. So what's going on? He asked them about are the Dynamo looking to be active in the transfer market that's opening up here pretty soon for MLS, which is between, I think, August 12th and October 5th, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and Tab basically told him, like, yes, we are actively looking, but he said, I've only spent amount of time with these players. I don't want to overlook the players that I currently have to go plug in somebody from somewhere else, thinking that I'm going to have the player that I want when the player that I wanted has always been here. And I understand that, obviously, like this season, because of the whole COVID thing, has been a complete, everything's turned upside down. But what do you think, Sean? I mean, like, obviously we know that they're signing youth, they're going after youth and all that great stuff, and they're going and looking forward to the long term. But the thing about the long term is that you can't plan too much about the long term, because you might not be there in the long term. And obviously, Tab or any other coach in MLS or any other soccer league is not prone to waiting it out. Teams and owners and fan bases want to win, and want to win as much as possible. So, do you think, or do you foresee the Dynamo being active players during that transfer period for the MLS, as
No,
far as short term? I mean, as far as
short term.
like players that can help now.
Nope, absolutely not. I believe genuinely that when Tab was brought in, he was assured that he had time, that he was not going to be judged off the initial first season. I think he was told that I think he was told by ownership, we understand this is a building process and a rebuilding process. They're not going to publicly label it that, but I think he was told that. And I think you can tell that from his responses and the way that he's kind of focused in terms of the transfer window and talking about the long term and, finding the right guys. And maybe we look at the guys that we already have to make sure, we're not overlooking anybody. That, to me, that signifies they ain't looking for anybody. I mean, they've got targets that they would love to snag, but they're not getting them. Let's be real. So, and that's okay. It has to be okay. We don't have a choice in that. But I think there was something, and I meant to bring this up last week and I forgot. And it was something that Glenn had said, and I remembered like an hour after the show, and I was kicking myself because it would have been the perfect ending note for the show. But Glenn had tweeted out at one point about how you look at the Atlanta United situation, and a lot of the pressure that Atlanta felt to move on from Frank DeBear came from the fact that the fans were, and not just the fans and local media created the pressure around the club being successful and continuing to be successful. And he's brought it up before that one of the things that we don't have here in this market is media that feel that they can hold pressure on the Dynamo, and some of that is that the there was a period of time at the end of the Canetti years after Kinnear left where the Dynamo front office basically stonewalled media from being able to get interviews, have access to players. even show up to practices for whole practices. They created a very hostile environment for media. And John Walker, Deanna Witter, Zach Emmons, those people right now are working in the front office to try to repair those relationships with the media. And we're seeing the effect of it. We're seeing more media come around and starting to cover and talk about the matches and talk about players and do stories and that sort of thing. But what we're missing is that pressure. And I think that's because the media have this feeling now to some extent where it's like, okay, can we apply pressure, or are we going to immediately get pushback from the organization and not have access anymore?
No, and that,
Go ahead.
and I think that's a great question to ask somebody from the front office, because I mean, yeah, it's always, you always want the media exposure. You want the positive outlooks. You want the big, headlines when the team is doing well, and all that good stuff, and all the charity work that's going on with the Dynamo and all the good and all that great stuff. But when it's not going well, as far as the product on the pitch, are they willing to accept the criticism? I mean, because think about it. Think of any team in the world. I mean, they have those supporters. They'll huddle up and they'll do whatever they feel that needs to be done to let their voices be heard. Whether it's through media outlets, whether it's through protests of the team, whether it's towards not showing up for the games, matches, or whatever, or being quiet for X amount of minutes. Whatever they have to do. And I think that's where we're kind of lackluster, because obviously the front office, during that time period that you spoke of, them shutting them out, and obviously the media not being able to. The media has to be allowed to go both ways, basically. I mean, you can't just have the media for when you want it, when it's all good and cherry picking and all that great stuff.
You can't just have fluff pieces.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, exactly. You gotta allow the media to be the media and be able to criticize and ask the hard hitting questions, and be able to go out there and, hey, kind of push the envelope on, and hopefully press the front office to be better, because if nobody's holding the front office accountable to making the product on the pitch better, then why would they listen to a fan base, or why would they listen to a podcast, of fans talking about, the whatever bad is going on over there, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and that's not the way that it should be ran. You should be able to accept positive criticism. Yeah, obviously, I know there's X amount of fans out there that are just gonna bash the Dynamo, that they've been this, blah 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 blah, whatever. Yeah, that's a small percentage of fans that do that. But I mean, but for the greater majority of fans and people that I've talked to on Twitter, they want their team to succeed. That's nothing out of the ordinary of a supporter or fan or whatever you want to call them. You want a successful team that, a season in, season out, are going after silverware and are winning, and they want teams, and they want the team to be passionate about about representing Houston, the city that they live in. So,
I think it's interesting because, we're talking about media and pressure and accountability and those sorts of things. And we're talking about fan supplying pressure and accountability and those sorts of things. I look at other teams in the league that aren't spending either. And it's interesting to see a lot of similarities in those teams in terms of, the fans try to apply some pressure. But the local media doesn't really apply any pressure. There's no accountability. The expectation is, okay, they're competitive year over year. What does that really mean? I mean, okay, competitive. Are they in the running for a potential spot in, the playoffs? Is that good enough? I mean, 75 to 80% of teams make the playoffs in MLS. So is that good enough? And I think it depends who you ask, obviously, but it's also one of those situations where I think American sports have dictated what is considered successful. Whereas, in England or Europe, success is very much driven by hundreds of years of, at least 100 years in most countries of, league football. And you see it in the Premier League. Congrats to Fulham on their, promotion. And Leeds United on their promotion. And, Leeds was a perfect example of a team that were in the Premier League and, suffered some setbacks and fell quite a ways down and have managed to pick themselves back up. And it's not just the team. It is usually, the team working with the fans and building that support and, and going from there. But it also, in all seriousness, every one of those teams that have picked themselves up, it came from media providing pressure on the coach or on the front office or on the ownership group, whoever it was, that they needed to do more, that what they were doing was not enough. It wasn't, it wasn't being successful. Couldn't be considered successful. And I think at this point, the Dynamo have gotten away with it because of a few different reasons. I mentioned the whole Canetti thing and how that kind of turned into pushing the media completely out of the picture and trying to just create their own positivity around the team because the media were not. But I think the other kind of flip side of that is, because of that lack of pressure and that lack of coverage, the Dynamo have been able to kind of create their little niche and their little area of exposure. But the other side of that is your other big three sports teams here in Houston, they're going to dominate the talk. And so even places where normally you would get that pressure in a sports talk radio environment during those shows where callers are calling in and venting their frustrations, I don't hear any Dynamo talk. I don't hear any Dash talk. I don't hear any Houston soccer talk on any of those sports talk radio stations. And Glenn talks about that all the time. If people want to see the Dynamo improve, if people want to see that pressure put on the Dynamo, they have to be willing to call into those shows and talk about the team. Get those shows talking about the team, and there's a correlation that comes from that, which is that suddenly the team is having to explain very openly why they're struggling in the way that they are. And I want to give Glenn credit because I don't think he gets enough credit. He has been pushing this for years now. But the big thing is, I feel like he's finally created an inroad with the organization because, as you noted, he was able to ask Tab hard-hitting, real questions and get real answers out of Tab, not the fluffy, sugar-coated answer that, is the I'm going to read from a book and tell you what the book says the answer should be. Yeah, it wasn't PR speak. It was very much just Tab being a real, honest person. And frankly, I mentioned this during the last year of Wilmer's tenure and even a little bit before his last year. One of the things the Dynamo have struggled to have since Kinnear, and really even during the Kinnear years, is a public-facing figure that is someone who is willing to just be real and honest with fans and transparent. And the difference is there's a respect that comes from being transparent and honest. Even if you don't agree with the answer, if you hear them being transparent and honest, and it's just that one person, and they're saying, look, we want to be active in the window, but we are looking at the players that we're going to evaluate, our own players, to evaluate our own players. I think fans are more willing to accept that if they hear it instead of, oh, well, we're always looking and, we have some targets, and you hear a little bit of that in what Tab said, but he still backed it up by saying we're going to also evaluate our own players and make sure that we're giving the opportunities where they're due and to players that deserve them and aren't overlooking players. I think the other thing we have to remember when we're talking about potentially bringing players in, I'm sorry to dominate this conversation, Mark, but I know you're sitting back.
Go ahead.
Is a lot of player contracts are coming up, and we talked about it last week and even 2 weeks before that. A lot of player contracts are coming up for renewal in 2021 at the end of this year. So there's roughly, I think, 7 or 8 players. Now, a few of them are on veteran minimum contracts, so it's not like we're going to be creating a bunch of cap space or budget space, if you will. Yeah. But there are a couple of players that if we don't re-sign them, it's going to create opportunities for other players. And not current other players necessarily, but other players, from outside the Dynamo organization. So, I can understand why he is really focusing on this window and saying, we're going to try to be active this window, but we are evaluating. Part of that is we're evaluating because guess what? We have all these contracts coming up for renewal, and I need to know these 8 players. Which of these 8 players do I want to keep, and which of these 8 players can I say, no, you know what? It's time for them to go find somewhere else to go. They're not going to fit into this organization. And I think that we'll see a busier off-season window, whatever that off-season ends up being for the winter window. I think we'll see a much busier Dynamo during that period than we will this summer window. And that kind of gets back to your original point.
And just talking about that, Glenn has always pushed the narrative about, applying pressure to the team, letting the team know that you are there and that you want to be heard and all that good stuff. I mean, the perfect example is the Columbus Crew and what happened with those guys, a couple of years back with their old ownership. wanting to take the team out of Columbus and take them down to Austin. That whole hashtag Save the Crew thing, man, that thing was everywhere. That thing was everywhere. It was amazing to see how random places, random sporting events, that hashtag Save the Crew would pop up, man. Even if it was just a little second that it popped up on whatever, but it was out there, man, and people knew what the deal was about. And that's coming from little Columbus, Ohio, man, a city of 350, maybe 400,000 people, and we're 10 times that size, man. And obviously we have a passion for soccer here, and there is hype behind the Dynamo, and people are excited about the Dynamo and want to be excited about the Dynamo and want to participate and hopefully have a parade for them like we did with the Dash, man, and all that great stuff. But obviously they have to allow the positive criticism to come in and let them be checked, humbled, when stuff goes wrong. I mean, not everybody is perfect, man. Not any one club around the world does business perfectly in every kind of way, or deals with players or with whatever other issues that's going on inside the club perfectly. And we understand that, man. We're not naive, man. We're not naive. We've been soccer fans before the Dynamo forever created. So, I mean, we know what's up. We just want that transparency, like you said earlier. And the fact that Tab is transparent the way he was in this interview, it's just going to show, the difference between the old regime and the new regime, and that's good to see. And it's not going to change overnight. Obviously, we know that, but it's good to see that there's some changes happening and we can actually see those changes. One more question from Glenn's interview before we move on. He asked specifically about Alejandro Fuenmayor. For those who talk about the show, for those who've seen the show with us, they know that I'm a fan of Alejandro Fuenmayor, man. Obviously he played a small bit last season, and in the small bit that he played, I personally thought that he played really, really well. And Glenn felt the same way. And he told him, like, hey, man, I'll talk about making the team young. You're going after this young players, the youth movement. You're signing players from the academy, but yet you have this 22-year-old center back who has the ideal size of a center back that you want, who can pair up with Kiki. What's the deal with Alejandro? And Tab straight up told him he's our fourth center back. We have Kiki, who's our star player. We have Minor, who's our veteran presence. We have Cabrera, who we brought in. Obviously, we value him highly because we traded Kyoto for him. And there's Alejandro, which that's aside from the fact of knowing that he's the fourth center back and us, and then obviously that he mentioned McHugh and Kyle Adams and all this stuff, but to know specifically, hey, this is the position you're in right now. And he basically told, Alejandro has a lot of good qualities. He likes Alejandro. He's a young player, and he's one of those players that he wants to see make it, But obviously, because of the whole COVID thing again, they haven't had enough time. Cabrera's a veteran in the MLS who's done really well in MLS. Minor has his resume playing in Premier League, and he's done really well in the short amount of time that we have. He's a 30-year-old center back. So, his time is running up, if it hasn't already. Kiki, obviously, we invested in him to shore up that back line, to be that anchor, the back four. So obviously he's not the one being replaced, but to know that, he knows, hey, Alejandro's going to get his playing time. He's doing well in practice, this and that. It's great to see. What do you think, man? First and foremost, what's your opinion on Alejandro Fuenmayor? Do you think he's one of those players that's going to be sticking around?
I mentioned it last week. If he isn't in your plans to be one of your two starting center backs, or even your three, your two, and then your sub, and you don't expect him to get a ton of minutes, or reasonable starter minutes, if you will, then why are you holding on to him? You've kept him for so long, and he's never become a consistent permanent starter. Now, we did the same thing with Morrow. Let's not beat around the bush. But on the flip side, how much faith does Tab have in a young center back to truly take the reins? To me, it sounds like Tab is really reliant upon the veteran, the veteranness. It's a good word for it. Veteranness, the experience, if you will. There we go. The experience of the older players that have been in various leagues around the world, or have the experience in MLS. Whereas Alejandro, part of it is unfortunate for him. He doesn't have the experience in MLS because Wilmer never gave it to him. He could have had that experience. Wilmer could have gone ahead and started him, but Wilmer had other plans. And it's up to Tab to determine whether Alejandro is good enough to be that third guy. I don't think Alejandro right now is good enough to be one of those first two. But like you noted, Minor is 1 foot in the door of retirement. He's there. He's nearly there. So that's going to open that third position for him to be that rotational center back. And look, injuries are going to happen at some point. Somebody's going to pick up an injury during a season, and Alejandro has to be that player to step in and play well. And I think that Tab is the type of coach that if Alejandro is given that opportunity and he shows that he's ready to take it, Tab will have no problem keeping him in that position. I don't think Tab is the same type of coach as Wilmer was, that wanted to rotate players constantly on the back line. We had no semblance of, sanctity on our back line. It was a constant, shuffle and rotate. And, there was you never knew who your starting lineup was going to be, let alone your starting center backs or outside backs. There were times I was like, oh yeah, D&B's gonna wait. He's not starting. Hold on, wait, what? It's that kind of thing. And don't get me wrong, I love Lundqvist. I think he's the right player at left back, but it requires the right center backs. But to say all that to say, I think Alejandro has the talent to be that type of player. I just don't know if he has taken the opportunity to grasp the reins, or if he's really been truly given the opportunity to grasp the reins. And he spent a while at RGV, and that was not ultimately good for his development as a player. And so, again, it falls on Tab. Tab is a coach that is supposed to be able to find and help nurture youth and young talent, and Alejandro fits that to a T. So we'll find out, right? That's the best I can say about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I personally think that Alejandro, once this MLS season gets rolling after this tournament finishes, I think he's gonna get his opportunities, man. For the way he sounded in that interview when he was talking to Glenn, is like, yeah, he's number 4 right now. But there's opportunity for him, and he's gonna get his chance to go out there and prove his quality and prove his worth, man. Because obviously he's one of those young players that we have in the squad that we would love to continue to grow and progress with, and for him to help us, grow as a team and compete as a team. So, man, I hope that this MLS season does happen, or whenever it does happen, however it happens, just to see, man, because like you stated earlier, there is a bunch of contracts that are going to be done by December 31st, 2020, and it's going to be a lot of open spots. Obviously we're going to fill those spots with some youth players, and obviously they're going to bring in players from other leagues in the world, but at the same time, you're going to keep some players that have shown and proven their worth. And hopefully Alejandro's one of those players that, gets to stick around with us, if he shows this quality and he shows that he's worth the roster spot here in the Dynamo, obviously. So, yeah. But that's basically the whole interview that he had with Tab, with Glenn and it's great to see the transparency, like you said, that Tab gave to Glenn, not really giving those PR answers. Obviously, he's going to share what he can, and in whatever he can't share, obviously, and that's with all due respect, and that's all good. But like I said, hopefully that atmosphere for the media changes out there, and obviously it has. I'm not going to sit here and be like, nah, it's still the same as it was last year. No, it's not. It's a lot more open. I see a lot more high-end local news anchors out there, like Mark Berman. I see him tweeting about the Dynamo, but before I would never hear or see his Twitter pop up with the Dynamo at all. Obviously, Lester, he's always been there and all that good stuff. But even around just other local freelancers, talking about Dynamo, the Athletic, and more involved. Like, I know you're a big sponsor for the Athletic. Do you
Sponsor,
love that?
supporter,
Well, not
supporter now.
but
Sponsor. I
supporter,
don't have that
supporter,
kind of money.
yeah, supporter for the
Woo.
Athletic. And there's a lot of articles about the Dynamo on there as well,
Mhm.
and it's good to see. It's good to see. The more press that you get for your team, the better, I think.
Absolutely, 100%.
But yeah, man. But before we go, man, there's some things that happened this weekend. Some great things that happened this weekend. We're gonna.
Hey guys, it's been a great show. Have a wonderful week. We will see you next week. Just kidding.
We're gonna jump into some a little English football, before we head out, and obviously as an Arsenal fan, man, I can't be more than happy for what happened for those guys on Saturday, man. The 2-1 victory over Chelsea, for those that didn't see, in the FA Cup, their 14th or record 14th FA Cup title.
Freaking Chelsea, man, they couldn't do it.
Man,
it was so
I mean,
hard to hear about.
Like I stated last week's show, I was hoping that this match would be a turning point for Arsenal as an organization, as a club.
No, this is what you guys do. This is what you guys do. It's FA Cup or bust. That's all it is.
Whatever. Anyway,
that's Arsenal. That's literally Arsenal's focus. All right, guys, we're gonna bow out the league early, and then we're gonna focus on FA Cup because nobody else cares about FA Cup because they're in Champions League. Our only possibility of ever making Champions League is winning Europa Cup or Europa League right now.
Oh, but speaking on that, I mean, the winning FA Cup gives us Europa League, and it gives us a direct into the group stages. None of that early qualifying stuff. Like,
why you gotta say it like that? Look, what the reality is Tottenham are gonna run through the qualifying stage.
Let's hope.
We're gonna be against we're gonna be pitted against a Bundesliga 2 team, and we're gonna die. It's gonna be like 5-0 Tottenham. I mean, it'll be okay. Look, hey, we'll play all our young players. We'll play Oliver Skip. We'll play Troy Parrott. We've got plenty of young players, and I'm happy to throw out there because we need to give a minute. So
the unfortunate thing about that is you have to travel to Belarus or something like that and go play in some shitty atmosphere, in the coronavirus, So
it is what it is. Everybody's got to contend with it in their own way, and at least we're in Europa. It wasn't a guarantee at the end of the season. It wasn't even a guarantee during the last match of the season. So had to earn it, and we definitely earned it. So it's a starting point, and you got to go somewhere from there. I don't want to linger on EPL too long because it's over and time to move on. But I do want to give a shout out to Man City because signing Nathan Ake and Ferran Torres, I mean, like that just came out of nowhere for me. I was like, wait, what? City did what?
Dude, I kid you not. A month ago, I started because I had a lot of time on my hands. I started a new career mode on FIFA. So I wanted to make it a little bit harder for myself, right? And I just kind of like whatever. So obviously I went this season. I decided to go in the Premier League. So obviously I'm going to pick Arsenal, right? And so I did my little transfer. My first deal of business, man. I wanted to get younger, right? I wanted to get younger in my midfield. And my first signing was Torres, man. Torres, man. And dude, that kid now. I got him like I think he was on a 82 average, man. He's up to like an 88 right now.
Oh no, he jumps up stupid. But we have to remember this is FIFA, and FIFA's traditionally done mediocre at calling out players that are likely to become superstars in the future. With that being said, it was still seeing those announcements from City was just like, wait, what? Like it was
a great signing because I mean,
well done.
The way they're doing business over there, I mean, he had a $60 million release clause from Valencia, and Valencia are basically letting go most of their first team because they have to pay their debts, and they didn't qualify for Europe, so they're not going to get any of that money. So they have to go shed salary, right? And this kid, 20-year-old kid, Spaniard, who's played first team for the national team, $60 million clause. And they pay a third of that, man. That's excellent business. And then on the other hand, they obviously signed a great defender and Ake from Bournemouth. But dude, 40 mil. I mean, I don't know if he's worth that much, but I mean, obviously, when you're doing business between the English teams, they tend to price their players a lot more than what you would usually get if he came from La Liga or from France or from Italy or whatever. But two great signings from Man City. Obviously Chelsea, what they're doing with Timo Werner and Ziyech and Kai Havertz, possibly, that's going to be great to see for Chelsea fans. But they're still looking for a goalkeeper. We'll see what happens with Kepa and all that stuff. Tottenham, I mean, I don't know what's really going on. No,
we're going after Troy Deeney and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. I'm honestly, genuinely, look, Tottenham are already a good team. The offensive talent, you can't deny it. They are one of the strongest offensive teams, top 5 offensive teams. Their struggle is what?
Harry Kane staying injury free. That's the only problem with Tottenham.
Yes and no. So they're going after Troy Deeney because if he doesn't stay injury free next season and they can have Troy Deeney as his backup, I have no concerns over Tottenham continuing form. Whereas this season, when Kane went down, it was like, oh no. Next season, if Deeney's there, I'm not worried. It'll be perfectly fine.
Obviously, myself, and obviously for me, Arsenal.
And then there's Arsenal.
After that, after the FA Cup win, there's a lot of rumors spreading out there, and a lot of things going on,
there's tons of rumors across all of EPL, that's for sure.
But,
I'm just waiting for Arsenal to actually ink somebody, but that'll happen like the last day of the transfer window when everybody else is basically giving up on a player and they're like, all right, fine, we'll sign him. Why not?
Come on.
You say, come on, but I ain't seen nothing from Arsenal yet, so let's go.
Hold on, man. Just give it a segment. The window hasn't opened yet.
Please.
But, obviously the rumors is, William coming over from Chelsea on a free because, he wants that 30 year and they're willing to give him that 30 year for that leadership and skill level that he still has, which I think William still has a good 2 years left in him, Obviously,
there's no doubt he's got 5 years left in him. He is that level of player.
But obviously Chelsea have a policy how they want to do things, and that's great. It's good to hold firm to what policies you want to run, but one club's loss is another club's gain. Other rumors are obviously Coutinho, and we'll see what happens with that, man. It sounding like it's going to happen more on a loan, maybe, possibly, but still, he's a great player. Was a great player for Liverpool when he was here playing the Premier League, killing it with them. But we'll see. He's had a couple of back-to-back seasons where he's kind of like iffy, but who knows, man? If we can get some kind of Liverpool Coutinho back in there, man, it's gonna be amazing for Arsenal. Obviously, defense is a place where we need to focus on immensely.
I remember having the same conversation at the end of last season too, where you were like, "Man, that Arsenal defense is just worrying me." And then y'all got Luis, and I was like, "Oh, y'all are fine." No, y'all weren't fine.
And it is, man. But the good thing about it is, our left back looks good to be good with Tierney. Saliba's coming in from France. Obviously, he's a young 20-year-old center back, and we're looking to grab a young Brazilian center back from France.
Y'all gonna get rid of David Luiz yet, or are you gonna hold on to him a little longer? Because that dude's gonna continue to cost you games if you're not.
One more year for David Luiz, so you can chill out there for a little bit, have that veteran.
He's been chilling out for years. It ain't changed him. He's that type of player.
It's all right, man. It's all right. Hey, man. Let me get this moment of shine from Arsenal, man.
I gave you the moment of shine. I let you have 5 minutes of that, and then I went and talked about Tottenham and told you why Arsenal sucks. That's my right as a Tottenham fan. Look, it's just how it is.
How do you become a Tottenham fan, man? they're like the 5th club in London.
Do you want to know the story behind how I became a Tottenham fan? No joke.
Okay, well, hold on. Before you go into that story, real talk. They're like the 5th club in London. It's Chelsea, Arsenal, West Ham, Fulham, then Tottenham.
You got jokes. You got jokes, but all I got to do is point at the Premier League table this year and look all the way down at 10th place where Arsenal finished. That's all I got to do, man. You barely made it to 10th place. You barely made it in the top half of the league.
It's all right.
Yeah. Like I said, Arsenal is that every year they're going to go after FA Cup because they can't do it in the league, and they know they can't do it in the league, so they got to rely on FA Cup to win.
We get silverware, and we're still in the same tournament as y'all.
I'm trying, Ness. He's the one that started this mess. I won't finish it. So anyway, how I became a Tottenham fan, since you asked. So I'm sitting there playing FIFA with my friend Ted actually, and we would run seasons every year. The new one would come out, and I'd get it, and we'd play it. And I don't remember what year it was. Might have been 2007, 2008, 2009, somewhere in there. Maybe the Messi cover in 2009. And we were playing through, and we playing as we played every year as Sheffield United actually, trying to raise them from championship up, and we usually did for what it was worth. But he asked me, who's your favorite team? And at that time, EPL team, who's your, who do you like to support? And I was like, oh, I kind of like, and at that time, Rafael van der Vaart was the top player for Tottenham, and I was like, oh well, I've seen Rafael van der Vaart. I like him as a player. I think he's fantastic. I think, if there's any team, that's the team I want to support. He's like, oh, that's cool. It's cool. We talked about it for a little bit. He explained about how the team, all the history and good stuff behind it. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And so I got into it a little bit then. Not super great, but a little bit. And then like 3 years later, he went over for a trip with his dad over to England, and he came back and brought me a Tottenham kit. And I was like, all right, it's on now. Like, I got a kit, so I got to support, right? And so I started tuning in a little more. I started being more plugged in, keeping up with news. And those were those lower years when they were not doing so great. And then right after that, they started that upward slope again, and I'm like, all right, I'm back. Let's go. And so now I've been on that bandwagon, man. And it is. I recommend, if you do not have a Premier League team and you're just like, I watch it. I'm looking at you, Cisco. I watch it because I just like watching Premier League games. You need to pick a team because it makes it that much more fun when you're watching those matches.
It's funny, you tell your story. My brother-in-law, beginning of this season, he started getting into soccer because he wants to get my nephew and my godson, obviously, he wants to get him into soccer. So, they want to start watching soccer and all this stuff, to just kind of show him, hey, this is how you play. He's 4 or 5 years old. I can't remember how old he is. And I told him, man, the only way you're really going to watch soccer is if you just choose a club, you follow them. Pretend it's the NFL. Pretend it's the Texans. This is your Texans. And you're going to follow them. You're going to, look at their schedule. You're going to follow them and watch them whatever time. And he asked me like, hey, man, like, what club do you follow? I told him I follow Arsenal, man, and I follow hard, man. He's like, well, shit, let's go. I'm like, all right, cool, man. So I would go to his house and watch. You
have set that child up to be absolutely. He's gonna have the mental fragility of of a kid that grew up with a soccer team that never could quite get it done when it counted, except in the FA Cup. He's gonna be one of those fans that celebrates the FA Cup as the end all be all. Hey, FA Cup, oh yeah.
So before we go, since you shared your story how you became a Tottenham fan, I'll share my story how I became an Arsenal fan. So,
Ness, are you going to share your story? We want you to share your story how you became a City fan. I want to hear the story.
My two favorite players growing up, and I'm not as old as Sean. I'm about 32.
What? 33. Wow. All right. I mean, that's fair, but damn, dude, just like right there. I'm not as old as Sean. Okay.
It's a good kind of give a narrative of time here, right? So, like, the first true World Cup that I can remember vividly is '98, right?
That's actually the same for me. I didn't remember before '98.
Yeah, so I mean, I remember watching '94, but I can tell you vividly, like '98, what's going on, Yeah. And obviously, the big match was France-Brazil, and France beating Brazil 3-0 and all that stuff to win their first World Cup and all that great stuff. And one of the young players from that national team was Thierry Henry. And at this time he was still playing for in the French league for I forgot who he played for. He was still playing in the French league, but he got his transfer in '99 to Arsenal. Yep. And I just for some reason I kept watching him play, and I loved the way he played, man. He was just such a fast, strong, accurate player, and just obviously his career is over now, and everybody's seen what he's done with his career, one of the all-time greats, And he was just so awesome, up front. And the way he shot the ball, the way he finessed and inside the box and was able to create space and just to score from any kind of angle, it seemed, it was just, killer, man. So being one of my favorite players, along with later on him and Ronaldinho, were just two of the players who I just followed constantly. And And yeah, it was Arsenal for me, man. It was an easy choice, and obviously what he did in Arsenal during his time there, it's magical for anybody who's followed Arsenal during that time period. Just and that's basically how I became a Arsenal fan from that '98 World Cup final of France beating Brazil 3-0. So
we need a whole show devoted to how we became a fan of XYZ teams. Like, these stories are fantastic. Just have these be our
They are,
promo
man.
segments. It's like great. Nestor, did you want to share your story? If not, I can totally understand. You need to go do your oil change on your car.
There's an oil change at 8:30 at night. I just want to know.
Dude, you need to meet Nestor. There's no doubt why Nestor is doing an oil change at 8:30 at night. That dude is just all about cars. It doesn't matter what time it is.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Nestor's gonna hold off. So this is the show. This is the show.
All right,
Close us
guys.
out,
Well,
Mark.
thank you again for joining in with us. Obviously it was not that fun of a week as far as Houston soccer goes. There was not a lot of news, but we try to make do with what we can. But we always try to show up for y'all Wednesday, 7:00 p.m. And before we go, always remember to click like, subscribe, and share with everybody, man. We're still trying to get to that 100 subscriber mark so we can get our own personal URL. But other than that, man, see you next Wednesday.
So long as Mark doesn't have work stuff.
I'm off for the next 2 weeks.
Oh, damn. We haven't showed 2 weeks in a row, folks. Let's go. With that being said, no, seriously, guys, thanks for joining us. We do appreciate it. We will see y'all next week.